Welcome to this demonstration of continuous business planning with IBM Rational software. Many organizations struggle with lack of communication across siloed teams and outside suppliers, poor visibility and control over projects, and inadequate traceability from business needs through delivery. This can result in rework, delays, cost overruns, and missed market opportunities. We will show how Rational software can reduce rework and increase delivery success by enabling closer collaboration across disciplines and teams, increasing visibility into initiatives and change, and providing enhanced governance and traceability throughout the lifecycle. In today's scenario, we follow JK Enterprises, a financial services company that has implemented a Rational solution to govern the application development that they have outsourced to trusted suppliers. The capabilities that we highlight are equally applicable to in-house and multi-source scenarios and to products as well as application delivery. Let's take a look. We'll start with the dashboard and Rational focal point. The data you see on this dashboard comes not just from this demand management and planning environment, but also from the project execution environment. JKE executives and business stakeholders require insight across the lifecycle to monitor the overall success of the program, including project completion, application performance, project health, cost and risk, and financials. For example, our project health indicators show us that MTM11 has quality concerns. We can get more information on those concerns looking at our test success, which looks pretty good, as well as our open defects, which shows there are quite a few high priority defects still open. Because MTM is only 33% complete, we're not too worried at this point. If it were later in the cycle, we may need to follow up with the project team. JKE defines business releases to coordinate delivery of business capabilities or requirements across applications. We can track progress of these higher level initiatives, as well as the projects beneath them, their quality, and their progress against the specific capabilities required. Some stakeholders, such as project managers or business analysts, want to see more details about their specific projects. In addition to these reports on overall progress, we can show the traceability and status of artifacts, from the business drivers right through to the implementation artifacts, as well as progress against test artifacts and defects. We can even open those artifacts in the execution environment. For example, to see more details on the blocking defect in the MTM project. JKE also wants to track how they are consuming resources based on the capacity they've contracted with their suppliers or they've defined internally. We can monitor high-level supply and demand of resources, including utilization and consumption, highlighting projects where we may need to take action. In addition to tracking the performance of projects and applications, JKE is also tracking their organization's performance. They have set targets for project time to deliver and on-time delivery, as well as for time to respond to change. On average, JKE has been able to attain and exceed the targets, although when we look at individual application teams, we see some discrepancy that may require follow-up. We can also track how well we're moving business requirements through the delivery pipeline. Finally, JKE also evaluates the performance of suppliers on the work assigned on an ongoing basis. We can compare suppliers to determine future arrangements, track work and payment progress, and view overall costs to determine whether we're achieving expected results. Let's look at what's behind these dashboards and how this solution can help your organization. As new demands or business needs or business requirements are proposed, JKE elaborates, evaluates, and prioritizes them against criteria that can involve cost, value, feasibility, risk, and so on. Negative criteria to be minimized appear here to the left, positive criteria to the right, and the black arrows indicate the total score for each of these items. Visualizations like this one help the executives make trade-offs and decide which new capabilities warrant investment and when. The highest scoring business needs here are related to JKE's mobile banking and mobile charity initiative. JKE's steering committee defines a business release to coordinate delivery of several capabilities that together will allow customers to make donations from their mobile device to charities located nearby. Business needs are further decomposed into features for each affected application or product. To allow charity donations, changes are required to the application that allows charity selection and to the billing application that processes payments. The owners of these applications then target these features to specific application releases on the roadmap based on priority, dependencies, and so on. We're taking a shortcut here to target this feature to the e-billing 1.6 release, which will deliver in time for mobile charity. Those decisions are reflected at the business release level, so the business release owner can collaborate with the application owners to ensure cross-project alignment and appropriate delivery schedules. The current plans show that the necessary features and projects will be available in the desired timeframe. The business release owner will continue to track progress of those projects and applications until final delivery of the business release. We have an understanding now of what the business wants, but we need to further elaborate these features as well as business needs into more detailed requirements so the implementation team understands exactly what is required. One of the key values of this solution is that it promotes collaboration between customer and supplier or business and delivery team throughout the life cycle, ensuring that everyone is on the same page with respect to what should be delivered. For each feature or business need, the business team generates a requirement collection in Rational Requirements Composer, which is linked to this original element in Rational Focal Point. You can see that the supplier or implementer has elaborated some lower-level requirements in Composer. As they do so, the customer or business stakeholders can participate by either contributing content directly or commenting, and all parties can discuss and refine as needed. Note that we're also capturing the acceptance criteria here as well, so we all agree on how we'll know and test whether this requirement was implemented correctly. We can also hold formal and informal reviews to ensure consensus and record approvals. Feature collections link back to the feature in Focal Point and also link from the requirements collection for the business need to which it contributes. Having a separate requirements area for the higher level business needs allows JKE and multiple suppliers to collaborate together on common requirements, interfaces, and so on, while keeping application-specific work private. With the requirements and acceptance criteria agreed upon, implementation can begin. JKE leverages the Rational Team Concert planning capabilities for individual projects or application releases. To ensure that developers understand the business drivers, as well as for traceability and progress tracking, the business team or project lead generates plan items in the RTC release plan for each of the features to be delivered. This link back to the original feature informs the developers about the business drivers. As much information as the business, or in this case the customer, JKE, allows them to see. The implementation team decomposes plan items into stories, each of which corresponds and links to a requirement in Requirements Composer. The same requirements we saw earlier with the conditions of satisfaction. So developers are well informed on what is truly required in implementation. As the project team plans the release, they target implementation of the stories to iterations based on the size and priority of the work. JKE business stakeholders can participate in this planning, and this plan is always current. In an outsourcing situation, the supplier may not perform all the work here in RTC. They may have their own development environment elsewhere, but the expectation is that they will break the work items down into stories and keep these high-level work items updated with current implementation status. Where teams do perform more work directly in RTC, the progress data is of course that much richer. Here we can see the content and progress of the iteration or sprint, determined by completed and remaining story points based on the process template for this project, and the progress of the overall application release as well. So the customer has insight into both plan and actual status at various levels, including individual stories or plan items, based on the completion of the actual artifacts. We'll see later how JKE stakeholders can also view artifact and project completion from Focal Point without opening the CLM tools. And in fact, we did see that from the dashboard earlier. The application release plan links both to the requirements collections being implemented and to the acceptance test plan. Again, in an outsourcing scenario, the supplier team may not manage all their testing here in Rational Quality Manager, but we're using it to manage the acceptance testing for this application release, defining objectives, test environments, and test artifacts. A test suite is defined for each plan item, and the stories beneath each plan item have one or more test cases within that test suite, so we can track testing of the individual stores as well as at the plan item or business need level. And test cases are informed by the acceptance criteria defined in the original requirements, which are linked here to the test artifacts for traceability. Once again, the test plan and artifacts are developed in collaboration across stakeholders between JKE and supplier or the business and implementation teams. From a scheduling perspective, JKE has scheduled 2 acceptance test iterations per development iteration, one performed by the supplier or development who wants to ensure the tests are successful, and one done by the JKE acceptance test team. Now, these can be scheduled independently, so the supplier might do their testing first, or they could overlap. But by testing at the end of each iteration and tracking the earlier result of the supplier acceptance testing, JKE gets an earlier indication of whether everything is on track. And like the requirements, we can have all key stakeholders review and approve both the test plan as well as lower-level test artifacts, so all agree on what tests will support acceptance. We also define an acceptance test plan for the business release. It tests the high-level capabilities or business needs across the applications, informed by the details and acceptance criteria defined in the requirements for the business needs and release, which were elaborated in their own requirements composer project and linked to application release requirements, as we saw earlier. In our scenario, 2 applications must deliver a set of integrated capabilities to enable mobile charity donations. Like acceptance tests for the applications, JKE wants to run the integration test iteratively, but the applications are on different schedules, delivered by different supplier teams, so they won't be ready at the same time. To enable earlier integration test, JKE used Rational Integration Tester to define virtual services and test artifacts to simulate and test the inputs, outputs, and processing associated with the application's search for charities and donation processing, as well as the end-to-end scenario. The test cases and scripts were then exported from Rational Integration Tester and added to Rational Quality Manager. In early integration test runs, the testers use the virtual services to replace or emulate the missing function in the application. As sprints progress and the needed application capabilities become available, testers substitute the running application code for the virtualized stubs. So even if the search capability is not yet ready, testers can simulate that operation while still passing results to the completed billing code for processing. Virtualization helps JKE identify potential integration issues earlier in the cycle and also allows internal and supplier testers to simulate aspects of the production environment that they can't access directly. Let's take a step back now to look at projects and capacity planning. Project leads capture resource demands as well as financial costs and benefits for the application release projects. These values are rolled up to the business releases where applicable and factored into investment decisions at multiple levels. After identifying the demand for the project managers request resources from the appropriate resource pools, which capture the available effort or capacity negotiated with the supplier or defined by the organization for that time period. Pools may also reflect specific skills or disciplines, accounting for different types of resources and capacity, especially in an internal situation. We can track available supply, requests, and utilization per pool, as well as on the dashboard as we saw earlier. In this pool, we can see that there is room in the available supply to approve the pending requests from e-billing. Resource managers would typically approve requests when the project itself is approved. To better manage the work of the suppliers in this outsourcing scenario, we also define a set of work orders. Work orders capture the work requested of and agreed to by a supplier. They're not intended to replace the legal contract, but define the smallest increments of work authorized within that contract, like a mini statement of work, and can be as granular or as broad as needed. In an in-house scenario, work orders might be handled differently, but might still be useful to provide visibility into work being performed and agility in managing scope for larger projects. During planning, the project lead drafts a set of work orders to broadly capture the work and provide a check against the resource requests. As the project progresses, work orders are refined to specify the work to be performed in detail, with timelines, cost, and criteria for success, and shared with the supplier for them to revise if necessary and eventually approve. JKE also approves and authorizes work to proceed by providing a purchase order, whether new or from an existing purchase order. Actual effort is collected in the work orders as well and used to track against the allocations and resource pools for utilization and consumption metrics, as we saw earlier in the pools and on the dashboards. When the work is complete, the project leader designate can assess supplier performance and quality of this piece of work. And schedule performance is calculated also. These evaluations are aggregated back to the supplier. We saw the current average scores on the dashboard, but we can track the performance trends as well. Supplier B has been pretty consistent, but their average has dropped recently. We'll have to see if that's a temporary blip or the start of a trend. Let's take a closer look now at how we can track project and business release performance at different levels of detail. As we look at the overall project status for the mobile charity business release, we're concerned with the lack of progress on e-billing. Let's investigate this project further. We can see additional status indicators here, as well as scheduled dates that suggest work has started. We can use the links between the focal point project and the RTC implementation plan to get greater insight into the status. We can also extract values from RTC back to focal point to update the completion attributes without having to check as we just did. Usually we would schedule updates automatically to avoid situations like the one we're seeing now, but let's see how it works in real time. Using the link to the RTC plan, we can extract data from RTC to determine completion for the project. And we can do the same for individual features or plan items as well. We can also receive or retrieve the projected delivery date based on the current plan snapshot in Team Concert. So stakeholders don't even need to open the RTC release plan to view the current status. Health indicators are driven from this and other data to provide overall project status and are aggregated to the business release status as well. Earlier, we saw this aggregated data on the dashboard, and we can judge progress and health based on the actual implementation artifacts. The dashboard also displayed more details from the implementation environment on story point progress, defects, and test progress. For stakeholders who want even more detail on execution, they can open the team dashboards in the implementation environment to really explore the lower level details in individual artifacts and metrics in the CLM environment as needed. This increased visibility ensures stakeholders know what's really happening with the projects that are implementing the business capabilities and can take action where the need arises. And if the action requires a significant change, we can open a change request, soliciting and capturing input from all stakeholders and ensuring that any decisions are recorded with the rationale and communicated across the teams so all are informed. This concludes today's demonstration. To summarize, we have seen how integrating rational focal point and rational collaboration lifecycle management can promote closer collaboration between business stakeholders and implementation teams, including customers and outsourcing suppliers, and provide greater insight into ongoing work and status. This integrated solution increases governance and control over initiatives, mitigating risks to enable greater success in software delivery. For more information on how this solution can help your organization, please contact your IBM sales representative or visit our websites on www.ibm.com. Thank you for your time.